I still get nervous when I think about this. I apologize for any grammar errors because I'm writing this on my phone. My boyfriend at the time and I would smoke weed, listen to music, and go on really long road trips. It was fun and kind of our thing. We were around 19 years old when this happened. Johnny, my ex, suggested going to see the Devil's Tree here in New Jersey. We have this website called weirdnj.com and has a list of haunted places to go see. We decided on the Devil's Tree as our nighttime destination, so we got everything we needed and headed out for the hour-and-a-half drive to some random town in the middle of nowhere. The ride was fun. We were laughing, singing, and smoking. As we got to the town, we realized it was super desolate. It looked like a farming area. It was super foggy and about midnight when we arrived. We got out of the car and examined this eerie tree while reading about the urban legend behind it. The tree was terrifying. The silence was deafening. The tree was huge and had a rope hanging on several branches. I started getting nervous because I wasn't familiar with the area and felt uneasy. I feel it's important to mention Johnny was not street smart. He was born into a lot of money, so his mindset was much different than mine. His dad took care of everything for him. I was much more mature and had a lot of struggle and experience in life. So we got back in the car and decided to find a spot to park so we could make out. I was a complete idiot. We were going to roll a joint and mess around. We did this often. So we found a dirt road that was desolate and parked. This area was so creepy. I locked all the doors, being the paranoid person I am. As I started rolling the joint, we heard someone attempting to open John's door, followed by aggressive banging on his window. I literally jumped out of my skin. "Put the light on," I screamed to my boyfriend. He did and cracked his window to see what the guy wanted. This guy was like 6'4" and dressed in lumberjack attire.
"What the fuck are you doing here? Get out of the car right now. Are you gonna fuck her? You thought you guys were gonna fuck on my property?"
The guy yelled manically, holding John's window. John ignorantly smiled at him and replied, "We were looking at the Devil's Tree and parked here to set up the GPS to get home. I'm sorry, man, I didn't know I was on your property. We'll leave." "We aren't getting out of the car." The guy leaned over to take a look at me. I started apologizing profusely. Honestly, will never forget how terrified I was. I was hoping John would roll up the window and book it the hell out of here. Before we could even pull away, 2 pickup trucks full with other lumberjack-type men pulled up. There were 4 guys sitting in the bed of the truck. I swear to God, it was like a horror movie. One guy from the truck shouted, "Do we have a problem?" to the big guy that was still standing by the side of John's car. And when he said,
"They were gonna fuck on my property, what were you gonna do with the condom?"
he asked, leaning in and focusing his attention on me.
"You realize your boyfriend is digging your grave?"
I was apologizing and being as polite as possible. I started crying my eyes out. I kept saying we weren't gonna have sex, we're just trying to get out of here. I felt really uncomfortable. I was scared I was going to be raped and killed here. The guy then says,
"Why are you on my property? Were you gonna come on her or just leave the condom on my property? I can kill you both and bury you and no one would find you. You're so lucky your girlfriend has some sense. Get the fuck out of here before I change my mind."
I started having a panic attack. "John, let's go!" I screamed loudly. John hit the gas and we started driving fast down the dirt road. It was pitch black, and as I said, we didn't know this area. As we were driving down the road, a lady came out of nowhere. John had his headlights on so we could see her. She had a gun and was trying to block us from leaving. I distinctly remember John saying, "I'll run her over if I have to." I was looking for a weapon in his car. He worked for his dad's construction company, so he had tools in the car. I grabbed a hammer from the back seat, and John literally drove towards the lady. She was screaming shit at us. "You're not leaving," she screamed. She lunged out of the way as we drove as fast as possible right at her. I remember looking back and seeing headlights from the trucks. John took an abrupt turn, ignoring the GPS that was navigating us back home. We got on the highway as fast as we could. We were filled with nervous adrenaline. I said to John, "We almost died. You can't be an ignorant jerk to people like that. You made it worse." John was like, "Fuck those guys. We're fine." When John was scared, he would smile and laugh, so I knew he was just as scared as I was. That's why the lumberjack was getting more mad, because of John's attitude and responses. We drove back scared and relieved to be away from them. That guy made me feel so uncomfortable, asking weird sexual questions and looking at me like he wanted to eat me. It must have been a family that lived on that property, because the trucks pulled up so fast. We never went near that area again. We stopped going to weird places in New Jersey. I still get chills thinking about it. My name is Alexei. I'm 17. I'm from Poland. I came to France 6 years ago, and I'm going to tell you my story that continues today. It all started in August 2018, while I was in my bed watching videos on YouTube. I hear a noise coming from my corridor. So far, nothing to worry about. There are many in my family, so for me it was just my parents or sister walking down the hall. I continued to watch my videos quietly, and the noises stopped. The next day around 3 a.m., I wake up and decide to go for a drink in my kitchen, which follows at the end of my corridor. My room is located opposite, next to the garage entrance, so I had to cross the hallway to reach the kitchen. I noticed that the outside light was on, so I tell myself that it was a cat that had passed in front of the sensor, and that triggered it. I go back to my room and I hear a door closing gently, as if someone didn't want to make noise. I thought it was my imagination and that I shouldn't worry. I go back to my bed and I notice that my closet is open. I fell asleep again, and around 5:30 a.m. I heard my shutters open, electric shutters which made noise. And it was at this moment that I knew that someone was in the house. First reflex, I took something to defend myself, a knife that I always keep with me, and my phone. I put the lamp on my phone and went around the house, and no one was there. I directly called the police because today my family was away on a work trip, so I was home alone. The police arrived 10 minutes later, so I told them what happened during these 2 nights, and they told me that there was nothing they could do. The next day around 10 a.m., I got up and saw my breakfast going out and preparing. I used to publish my breakfast on Snapchat. I started to panic because nobody came back. I was still alone at home. I spent the day on the computer listening to music. Nothing unusual until then, and it was when I went to sleep that I heard the door of my garage open. At that time, I called immediately. The police arrived and began to inspect the house, but still no one. I went to bed, and the next day on my desk I found a note written on it, "You are not alone." I started to have a panic attack. I called my best friend Theo, who arrived at my house a few minutes afterwards and who decided to stay with me until the next day. And in the night, nothing had woken us up. Everything was in the same state as the day before. It was then when he left that I saw a figure in my yard, a tall man, dressed in a big black jacket and a black cap. He was in front and staring at me through my window, and I make a nice mistake of going to the computer and pretending not to have seen it. That's when I heard my front door try to open. I screamed with all my strength and shouting at this person to go away or I would call the police. which to this person laughed at and said to me, "The police can do nothing for you." I ran out of my house by the back door and managed to leave the house by a field behind my house. I went to seek help at the nearest house and the neighbor arrived but found no one. But when I got back home, I saw this man once again in my yard, but this time with a long, shiny object in his hand. I searched my room and my knife was no longer there. I understood then that the man had entered my home and stole my knife. I immediately called the police, who after 5 minutes of search finally succeeded in finding him in my garage in a small green metal trunk, which has been lying around for a few months. A few months later, I learned that this man was in fact known to the police, and he had had fun breaking into people's homes, but it is not known for that purpose. Since that day, I don't sleep a lot anymore. I am very afraid that this situation will happen again. My dad has not been taking the divorce well. I mean, I get it. He's upset that my mom and him had a falling out, but that doesn't justify him following us when we moved into a new neighborhood. The new community was supposed to be a fresh start, according to Mom. But it's pretty hard to start over when your dad has his car parked across the street from you all the time. Seriously, all the time. I'm pretty sure he sleeps in his car. And one time, when we went back to a block party, I swear he was recording our interactions with the neighbors. Like, I love the guy and all, but he needs to get a hobby. Start over like Mom and I have. He's tried to talk to me when Mom isn't around, wants me to come with him, which I always say no to. Why would I go with someone who's basically my stalker? He's also weirdly insistent that I stop going to church. How random is that? I don't care if we are blood related, because at the end of the day, the community is more important than the family member. When I ask her about my dad, Mom says that our problems don't matter since we'll all be ascending soon anyway. I guess she's right. Still, I can't help but worry, and I hope my dad will stop being paranoid over nothing.